Superman wins a plane ticket to the Caribbean in a contest, finally getting a chance to leave Smallville and take a break. While flying over open seas, the calm trip suddenly turns dangerous as the plane begins to lose control. The pilot shouts that they're going down, panic filling the cockpit. As the aircraft shakes, Clark's mind flashes back to the people who warned him before he boarded. He remembers Martha gently telling him, "Don't drink the water, Clark." The pilot yells that the stabilizer is shot, and another memory hits. Pete Ross joking about how, of course, Clark could win a Bahamas vacation. Then Jonathan Kent's voice echoes in Clark's head. "You know what it means, son. Be safe." The pilot shouts that it's going to be a water landing. "Brace your ass, kid." The plane slams into the ocean, sending water crashing over the cockpit as everything goes chaotic. As Clark struggles in the wreckage, more memories surface. He hears Pete telling him that maybe this trip is exactly what he needs after everything that happened with Lana. Pete had teased him about why he didn't just fly himself and give someone else the ticket. Clark had laughed it off, saying he could never tell when Pete was serious. Pete had then admitted he always thought he'd been the one to leave Smallville, not Clark. When Clark asked why, Pete pointed out that even though Clark could see through walls, he was sometimes incredibly short-sighted. The memories blur as Clark snaps back to the present underwater. The damaged plane sinks towards the ocean floor while Clark grabs the pilot and swims upward with him. They break the surface, grasping desperately for air. Clark, shocked by the experience, admits he didn't even know he could drown. The confused pilot barely understands what he's hearing. Suddenly, Clark feels something massive behind them and turns to see an enormous luxury yacht looming nearby. The pilot stares in disbelief and asks if these are Clark's friends. Loud music thumps across the water from the yacht's deck. As Clark helps the pilot climb toward safety, he hears the booming party sounds and asks if that's rap music playing. As Clark pulls himself onto the yacht, he's instantly stunned by the sight in front of him. The deck is packed with people in swimsuits, drinks in hand, music blasting, and decorations everywhere. At once, the entire crowd shouts, "Happy birthday!" in celebration. Clark freezes, completely overwhelmed, only managing a shocked, "Holy," as he takes in the massive party clearly meant for someone else. A man suddenly throws an arm around Clark's shoulders, excitedly greeting him and calling him Bruce. It's Oliver Queen, acting like they're old friends and asking where he's been all these years. Oliver compliments Clark's dramatic entrance, saying it was the perfect way to arrive. Clark keeps trying to explain that he isn't who they think he is, but no one listens. Oliver introduces him to Sue Dibney, who cheerfully wishes him a happy birthday and jokes about turning 21 and everything going downhill from there. More guests pile in, introducing themselves and laughing. Vic Zass mentions taking bets on how late he would arrive, while others talk over each other about jet skis, drinks, and people Clark should meet. One woman even jumps onto Clark in a tight hug, calling him Bruce Wayne excitedly. Before Clark can protest again, a woman watching from the side grabs his hand firmly and drags him away, saying, "You with me now," while the woman that jumped on Clark mutters in frustration. The woman who pulled Clark away was Barbara Minerva. As they move down the stairs away from the noisy crowd, Clark once again tries to explain that he isn't Bruce Wayne. Barbara calmly cuts him off and tells him she already knows. Relieved, Clark thanks her, admitting he thought he was losing his mind with everyone calling him Bruce. Barbara then explains that Bruce Wayne never actually attends his own parties. Every single year, there's a massive celebration on his yacht, and every year the same things happen. People show up, drink heavily, get high, and have a wild time. But no one has seen Bruce Wayne himself since he was 12 years old. Clark is stunned by this revelation. He points out that all these people seem to be Bruce's friends and wonders why they would lie. Barbara takes a glass of champagne and explains, "With money like Bruce has, wherever he is, people want to be. They're moths. Even with all their fortunes and chiseled bodies and silicone, they're just moths. And they want to be close to the light." She even jokes that if a parrot showed up with the right haircut, everyone would believe it was Bruce Wayne. Clark suddenly connects the dots and realizes she means Wayne Enterprises' Bruce Wayne. Panic hits him instantly. He grabs his head, convinced he's going to be arrested. Barbara then tells him nobody cares enough to stop him. She says once the boat docks in Granada, he can leave quietly. Until then, he's basically stranded, a castaway, so why not enjoy pretending to be Bruce Wayne for a while? She reassures him that he doesn't have to stop being himself. He can still be Clark Kent, just while wearing Bruce Wayne's name. She even suggests it might be easier living that way. Clark looks around the wild party, clearly conflicted and unsure what to do. Almost immediately after Barbara's suggestion sinks in, Clark fully throws himself into the role of Bruce Wayne. He's suddenly speeding across the ocean on a jet ski at full throttle, drink in his hand. Water spraying everywhere as he shouts at the top of his lungs, "I'm Bruce Wayne." After that, Clark is stretched out comfortably with 3 women lounging around him, laughing as he tells a ridiculous joke about a phrase turning out to be French for "I eat the window," which sends all of them into laughter. The scene then shows Clark behind the DJ booth, mixing music as the entire yacht party jumps and dances to the beat. Not stopping there, Clark is also shown bartending, performing flashy tricks while pouring drinks effortlessly, impressing everyone around him. The crowd is clearly loving him, and one man even shouts in amazement, "Wow, Bruce Wayne is friggin' awesome!" Later on, Clark relaxes in a large hot tub on the yacht with Oliver Queen, Vic Zaz, Sue Dibney, and the pilot who survived the plane crash with him. The warm water bubbles around them as they drink and snack on expensive spread laid out nearby. Vic casually encourages Clark to eat up, mentioning that the gold flakes sprinkled on the caviar will evaporate if he waits too long. Clark stares at the food in disbelief, realizing there's actual gold on it, clearly shocked by the level of luxury. Oliver casually explains that each bite is worth $4,000, treating it like it's nothing more than a normal snack. Sue laughs and says she still can't believe he made the pilot use his own plane, adding that she'll just buy him a new one, her treat. The pilot is stunned, asking if she's serious, clearly not used to this kind of money being thrown around so easily. As Clark looks down at the caviar in his hand, his mood shifts. He quietly talks about a girl he knew back home who had been badly burned. He explains how everyone had to chip in and raise money for her surgery, and how it took a whole month of suffering just to afford what she needed. He then points out that the food they're casually eating could have paid for her surgery 3 times over. Frustrated that they're eating them like it's nothing more than potato chips, Oliver responds with surprise, saying he never thought he'd hear Bruce Wayne worry about money. Clark immediately corrects him, saying he's not Bruce Wayne at all. Vic and Oliver exchange confused looks at each other, unsure of what to make of that statement. After a short pause, Oliver simply responds, "Deep." Hearing all of this, Clark grows more frustrated and finally facepalms, pressing his hand over his face. As the sun begins to set over the ocean, Clark stands quietly with Barbara Minerva near the railing of the yacht, both of them taking in the peaceful view after the chaos of the party. Barbara playfully teases him, saying he turned out to be quite the convincing parrot. Not only walking the walk, but fully squawking the squawk. She jokes that she can't believe some farmer managed to sneak on Bruce Wayne's luxury yacht party. Clark pushes back lightly, saying he didn't sneak in and clarifying that he doesn't work on a farm. He lives on one. Barbara smirks. "How often do they milk you?" Clark laughs along. "Apparently, not as often as they milk Bruce Wayne." She then calls Clark funny, appreciating his humor. Clark asks if she can put the compliment about him being funny in writing. The conversation shifts as Barbara asks whether he actually has a job or if he just stands around looking like someone out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Clark explains that he's studying to become a veterinarian. Barbara is surprised and jokes again, asking if that's for the animals on the farms he supposedly doesn't work on. Clark grows more sincere, explaining that animals need people to care for them because they can't help themselves or explain when they're sick, so someone has to look out for them. Barbara challenges this idea by bringing up natural selection, suggesting that maybe survival should just take its course. Clark responds thoughtfully, saying that natural selection becomes meaningless once compassion is introduced. She counters with a joke about telling that philosophy to a bear that eats him. Clark replies, "If that bear could feel about me what I feel about him, I bet he'd go hungry." Barbara then shares a story from a safari where she once saw a cheetah take in a baby gazelle after killing its mother, which Clark finds beautiful. But she quickly adds the tragic ending. The cheetah eventually starved and its mate ate the baby gazelle. Clark softly says that at least the cheetah tried. Barbara smiles, noting that he would be the type of person to say that. Clark admits he's been drinking all day, so what would he normally say versus what he's saying now might be blurred. Barbara looks at him curiously and asks if he has a lot of secrets. Clark meets her gaze and admits, "More than you'd think." Barbara then says she likes his outfit and asks if the outfit Clark is wearing is stolen. Clark explains he only borrowed it because his own clothes were soaked after the crash and he will give it back. She calls him noble and very Kansas. Clark comments on how there are lots of clothes on the boat and how Bruce Wayne seems amazingly good at pretending to exist. Barbara reflects that everyone pretends in life, pretending to fall in love, pretending to have goals, pretending to be ambitious. When Clark asks, "What about you?" Barbara says she wants to be an archaeologist. She jokingly worries he's judging her. Clark reassures her and says it actually makes sense because she's already seems to study these people. Barbara touches Clark's hand and opens up emotionally. She says she wants to believe she's different from the people on the yacht. She wants to feel special, to control her own fate, and make real choices in life. But she admits that whenever it's time to make a real choice, she always hesitates. A little bit later, the sun is fully set, turning the sky dark as night takes over. Inside one of the yacht's luxurious rooms, Clark and Barbara are lying together on the floor, completely exhausted and wrapped loosely in white sheets. Both of them are naked underneath, showing that they've just slept together. The room is a total mess. Their clothes are scattered all over the floor, champagne bottles and glasses are tipped over, and corks are lying around, showing how wild the night has been. Barbara rests her head against Clark's chest, gently touching him. She softly says that so much just happened. Later that night, out on one of the yacht's balcony under a star-filled sky, Clark and Barbara are lying side by side on a blanket, holding hands and looking up at the stars. A bottle of alcohol sits nearby. Barbara talks about how beautiful the stars are, and mentions she's seen them from many different countries, but says they've never looked as good as they do here in the Caribbean. Clark is amazed when he hears she's traveled so much. Barbara admits that even though the stars are beautiful, they always make her feel small. Clark responds differently. "I like it. I like feeling small. We're all just tiny creatures, little aliens, holding on to each other, out in the middle of nowhere. I think it's perfect." As they cuddle close, Clark gently plays with Barbara's hair. Suddenly, Clark jumps up and shouts towards the sky. "Hey, can you see me? I'm down here. You left me behind, but I'm okay. I'm happy." Barbara laughs and grabs him, confused but amused by his dramatic outburst, pulling him back down toward her. Right after Clark's emotional shouting at the sky, the effects of all the drinking finally start hitting him hard. As he tries to stand up properly, his body wobbles and his vision blurs. He feels dizzy and unsteady. Barbara teases him, pointing out that he didn't even drink that much, but Clark insists he needs to go to the bathroom. He stumbles away from her across the deck, barely keeping his balance. Around him, partygoers watch as he walks awkwardly. Clark starts talking loudly and sloppily, greeting people in a goofy way and joking about Bruce Wayne's fake friends, saying he still likes them though. As he keeps walking, his mind drifts back to memories and voices from his past. He calls out as if Pete is there, asking if he still thinks Clark is short-sighted. Then he calls out to Lana, asking what she thinks now, if he's finally being more outgoing. His thoughts mix together and everything starts feeling strange and unreal. Clark suddenly realizes something feels very wrong. Not just drunk wrong, but unnatural. He mutters, "Whoa, this feels not normal." When he reaches the bathroom, he hears a calm voice from inside. "Good evening, Master Wayne." Standing there is Deathstroke, holding his sword pointing directly at Clark. Deathstroke coldly tells Clark that Carmine Falcone sends his regards. Despite the danger, Clark's drunken state makes him react in a strangely carefree way. Instead of panicking, he smiles loosely and points at Deathstroke's outfit, slurring his words as he compliments.
cool costume.
Deathstroke begins explaining what is happening to Clark's body, revealing that the dizziness and loss of control are caused by a neurotoxin that he had slipped into a champagne glass earlier. He tells Clark that the poison is designed to shut down his senses one by one and that he should already be dead within seconds. Confused, Clark insists that he's fine, brushing it off like a simple dizziness. Deathstroke, however, is suddenly thrown off when he realizes the toxin isn't working as it should. He mutters in disbelief, unable to understand how Clark is still standing. Deciding not to waste time, Deathstroke lunges forward.
Fine, have it your way.
And attacks with his sword, slashing at Clark with full force. But instead of cutting through him, the blade strikes Clark's body and bends on impact, completely failing to pierce his skin. The force sends Clark stumbling back slightly, but he isn't hurt. Deathstroke stares down at his now warped sword in total confusion, finally realizing something is very wrong. Clark lifts his hands up, revealing that his borrowed shirt has been completely slashed and torn apart by Deathstroke's attacks. Looking down at the ruined shirt, he complains,
"You ruined Bruce Wayne's shirt."
In a sudden burst of speed, Clark reaches forward and effortlessly grabs Deathstroke's sword right out of his hand. Deathstroke stares at him in pure shock, stumbling over his words as he tries to understand how any of this is possible, how Clark isn't hurt, how the blade bent, and how he was disarmed so easily. Clark casually snaps the sword in half like it's made of plastic, holding up the broken pieces with a playful,
"Ta-da! Sard Borkin."
Then, with a simple, "You go," Clark flicks his index finger against him with barely any effort. The tiny motion sends Deathstroke rocketing through the air, flying up and away from the yacht and disappearing into the sky as he screams in the distance. Later that night, Clark returns to where Barbara is resting. She is half asleep, her eyes barely open as she softly greets him when she feels him beside her. Clark, still a little dazed from everything that happened, tells her that a one-eyed guy showed up and did some weird stuff. Barbara, too sleepy to really process it, simply murmurs that it sounds about right. The two of them move closer together, hugging and cuddling comfortably as they settle back down to sleep. Clark softly speaks to himself.
"Wherever you are, I hope you're happy too."
The scene fades with the calm of the night as Clark and Barbara drift off to sleep together. The next morning, the yacht is now docked safely at the port. The bright daylight replaces the quiet intimacy of the night before as Clark walks away from the yacht. Up above on the deck, Barbara looks down at him and calls out, surprised that he's leaving so soon. She teasingly says that maybe he's more cosmopolitan than she originally thought. Clark looks back up at her and explains that he tried to find her earlier but couldn't. Barbara admits that she was intentionally hard to find because she's terrible at saying goodbye, especially after a night like the one they had just shared. She confesses honestly that she had been worried that she might actually leave with him if she faced him directly. Clark smiles.
"Okay, let's go."
Barbara looks at Clark in shock and asks what he means. Clark explains.
"I mean, you hate all this. You've got money. Screw it. Come with me."
Barbara admits that she wants to go with him, but she hesitates. She explains that she can't do it. She can't be his tiny creature. Clark smiles gently, accepting her choice.
"Worth a shot. Maybe I'll see you again someday."
And he begins to walk away. Barbara watches him go and says she truly hopes so. Far away from the Caribbean and the Himalayas, where Bruce Wayne is deep into his training under Ra's al Ghul, Ra's approaches him and addresses him as
"Son of Bats."
He tells Bruce that there is something he needs to see. Bruce follows him into another chamber. Ra's shows Bruce yacht security camera footage. The footage shows Clark Kent partying openly on the yacht, laughing, drinking, surrounded by people. Bruce stares at the screen, visibly confused. He studies Clark's face and points directly at the image of Clark on the screen and says,
"Who are you?"
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.